Oh, what's wrong with the economy? You know, the oligarchs are sucking dry America's middle and working class, while the rest of us are left behind to feed off their crumbs. And this is, Reaganomics 101, right? This is how it was designed. Remember David Stockman, if you're old enough, back in the 1980s, going, well, it's trickle-down economics. Give the billionaires a lot of money and stuff will fall off the edge of the table. It'll trickle down eventually. Reagan even quoted John Kennedy saying a rising tide lifts all boats, as if he was creating a rising tide. What he was creating was a fountain of wealth, a rather different thing. In any case, Paul Buchheit, I think I'm pronouncing that right, Buchheit. He's a professor of economic inequality at DePaul University, and he wrote this brilliant piece that you can see at Alternet right now, laying out how large and outrageous is the wealth gap between the oligarchs, and let's just call them that, oligarchs, and the rest of America has become. For example, case in point, the Koch brothers. Both of the Koch brothers, David and Charles, saw their investments grow by a staggering $6 billion each. $6 billion last year, which means if you do the math, $6 billion each. If you do that math, they each made about $3 million an hour, and that's assuming a 40-hour work week. Gee, I would love to work a 40-hour work week. I think all of us would love to work a 40-hour work. I don't think there's anybody on the show who works less than a 50-hour. It's like, oh yeah, this is half work, half mission. But in any case, 40-hour work week, they're making $3 million an hour, and Buchheit compares that. Actually, I wouldn't want to work a 40. I enjoy what I'm doing. I'm not complaining. In any case, but I'm not making $3 million an hour, and neither are most Americans, and that's the point that I'm pointing out. In fact, restaurant servers, on average, make $2.13 an hour. So the Koch brothers make 1 million times more per hour than a restaurant server. Now, can we really genuinely look at each other in this country and say, that guy, his brilliance, his importance, the quality that he brings to society is so great that it's 1 million times better than the guy who's serving him his food? Can we really say that? We've never said that before in the United States. And that only begins to paint a picture of wealth inequality in the United States. On any given day in the winter of 2012, last winter, the best estimate is that around 633,000 homeless Americans were on the streets during the winter. Okay, Buchheit did the math. He says, okay, an SRO, single room occupancy, this is the arguably the most expensive way to house the homeless. Instead of putting them in, giant warehouse buildings, but, single room occupancy hotels, they run around $558 a month. If you took the 10 richest Americans and just ask one of them not to give up a penny of his wealth, or her wealth, the Walton family's in there, not to give up a penny of their wealth, but just to take a year's worth of income. In other words, just take a pause on your income for 1 year. Do like Lee Iacocca did when he took over Chrysler. Take a $1 paycheck for the year. Do like Steve Jobs did when he took over Apple. Take a $1 paycheck. The money that person earns is enough income to pay for a room in a single room occupancy hotel for every homeless person in the United States, not just for that winter, but for the entire year. One rich person, not even sacrificing 1 penny of their multi-billion-dollar wealth, just setting aside a year's income, could end all homelessness in America. If that's not mind-boggling enough, the total combined wealth of these 10 wealthiest Americans is more than the entire U.S. federal housing budget. Even if all 10 of them were to give up a year's income, they'd still be mind-bogglingly rich. Right? They'd never even notice it. Well, they might notice it, depending on how much they obsess on their wealth. According to a survey by the U.S. Conference of Mayors, nearly 20% of the homeless population in America is Hispanic, and that number is growing every day. In fact, for every single dollar of assets the single black or Hispanic woman has, a member of the Forbes 400 has over $40 million. So Buchheit said, let's throw that into context. Let's make that, real for people. What does that mean? What it means is that for every can of soup, $1 can of soup, some soup is more expensive than that. For every can of soup owned by a single black or Hispanic woman, one of our wealthiest Americans owns a $30 million mansion and a $10 million yacht. $10 million is a hell of a lot of yacht, by the way. $30 million is a hell of a lot of mansion. As of 2009, which is the latest we've got numbers for, the poorest 47% of Americans, how much wealth did they have, the poorest 47? Now, keep in mind, before Reagan, the poorest 47, the bottom 47% had 2.5% of America's wealth. Now, that ain't much, but hey, it's 2.5%. How much do they have now? Zero. It's actually negative. They actually owe more than they own. The nation's wealth is now instead in the hands of the wealthiest Americans, the oligarchs. I mean, right now, the 400 wealthiest Americans own as much wealth as 62% of our nation. 400 rich people, 62% of our nation. Which is why we have the fourth highest level of wealth inequality in the world. So how did these guys get so rich? How did they get all that money? For every Hispanic woman who has a can of soup, there's a rich guy who's got a mansion and a yacht, $40 million worth. In part, it's high levels of financial secrecy in the United States. The Tax Justice Network's Financial Secrecy Index highlights places around the world, Cyprus, that provide the safest havens for tax refugees, otherwise known as millionaires and billionaires who don't want to pay their fair share, right? And not surprisingly, the United States ranks fifth in the 2011 Financial Secrecy Index behind Switzerland, the Cayman Islands, Luxembourg, and Hong Kong. In other words, as millions of Americans are struggling to survive, the wealthiest Americans, our oligarchs, and let's just call them that, are accumulating vast sums of wealth without anyone saying a word or raising a finger. I mean, just look at Mitt Romney. During the campaign of 2012, there's this huge battle over, should we know how much money Romney has? See, I think he has over $1 billion. All of his peers do. He did disclose some information about his assets. But we know he's got piles of offshore money. Bottom line is that the outrageous levels of wealth inequality in America have been driven in large part by our society's coddling of and our media's willful ignorance toward our oligarchs. It's time for us to say enough already. Reaganomics has been a failure. All it has done is make the rich richer. As Elizabeth Warren pointed out, if wages is kept up with productivity, the minimum wage right now would be $22. It's time to start calling our oligarchs what they are.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And time to roll back the Reagan tax cuts so we can go back to having a middle class. The damage that man did to this country is mind-boggling.